Welcome back to Root Double. When we last left off, we were in Ukita's backstory now, which is remarkably similar. I can rely on him now. I don't think he's the someone I'd ever opened my heart to. That's exactly why Ukita had wanted to pick the person he'd truly call his comrade on his own. Ukita took a deep breath and took the PDA and dialed Watase's number.
Kasasagi Watase さんだね。名乗るほどのものじゃない。実は君にぜひ教えたいことがあってね。
Ukita then began talking in a quiet voice, following the information Q had prepared for him. The words he'd need to recruit his comrade. Thorough manipulation, and thus Ukita had gained a comrade named Watase. Two of them worked on the plan together. What they most hated were Rokame City and Labo. So they planned to deal a fatal blow to them by saving the test subjects. It was an extremely dangerous plan, but with Watase's help it looked like it might just work. Garbage collection. The structure of the plan was as follows. First, Ukita would detonate incendiary explosives inside Labo. Take that chance to save the test subjects with Watase and his comrades. Ukita decided he'd use an ultrasonic wave detonator to detonate the bombs while watching the explosions from the monitors in the surveillance room. Furthermore, the PA wasn't limited to the facility-wide broadcast, but could also selectively choose which areas to broadcast to. He used that feature to his advantage that it was in theory possible to make the bombs go off only in places without people. Ultrasonic waves could not be heard by the human ear, so he didn't have to worry about someone realizing what was going on. He also prepared various kinds of sound data to cause the detonations for both timed and instant explosions. Wow, that's... By loading the data into his PDA, Ukita could detonate the bombs into the facility whenever he wanted. The plan then proceeded smoothly. There's something I was thinking about between videos. If the core of Q I feel like there's still a certain core of Q that has that fear of having communicators able to read their mind. And the core of Labo's research seems to be wanting to understand BC, keep people from going on rampages with BC, control BC if possible, and protect people from BC, like developing the insulation and that stuff. Just saying that there might be an alternate reality somewhere where Q and Labo come to an understanding, where their goals intersect, which would leave the likes of Watase and Ukita on the outs with Q. Because their goals do not intersect with Labo's. They want to free the test subjects. And that takes us back to Miyoko, the question he asked Miyoko. The life of one person worth the safety of communicators across the board. Do you throw your ethics out the window to keep one or two people as lab rats to come to an understand, doing who knows what to them just to understand BC across the board? And that's a serious ethical quandary that has an obvious answer of don't do human experimentation, but you could sit down and debate both sides of that. And one day, a year later, Ukita was casually playing a game of chess in the surveillance room with the security guard.
チェックメイトか。序盤の駒損が後を引いたな。もう一戦行くかい。いや、完食とはいえ、さすがにそろそろ戻らなければまずい。 再戦はまた今度にしよ
じゃあまた来るときはぜひコーヒーの差し入れを頼むよ。うまいって仲間内でも評判でね。
う。それはよかった。僕の取り柄といえばそれだけだからね。
These games and conversations were also a part of his plan. Ukita then left the surveillance room and happened to come across Dr. Tenkawa.
浮田さん、あなたこんなところで一体何をしているの？
天川博士。
Ukita felt surprised, but he managed to compose himself and replied with a normal look on his face.
何？知り合いになった警備員と油を売ってただけですよ。何分すっかり暇な時間が増えましたので。
そう。
とはいえ少し時間を潰しすぎました。そろそろ仕事に戻りますよ。それでは。
Ukita then quickly tried to leave. However,
待って浮田さん。
え？
昨日保安六課から質問を受けたの。あなたをなぜチームから外したのか、その理由を聞かれたわ。
Security Sector 6. I wasn't familiar with that name, but it was most likely a division of Rokume City's security department.
それであなたは
何も。ただ適正能力ともに不適合のためチームから外れてもらったとだけ答えたわ。
Huh? What's that mean? Why'd the professor lie for me? Possible. Could it be her that deep down she has her misgivings about the current state of Labo? Yeah. Ukita rose one more question to Dr. Tenkawa in order to confirm that.
では博士、あの時は答えてもらえませんでしたが、今度は答えていただけませんか？もし夏彦君の能力が発現したとしたら、あなた。
Dr. Tenkawa grew quiet, much like she had that one day, and then she spoke up in a faint voice.
幽閉するわ。
え？
あなたはそれでも母親ですか？
Dr. Tenkawa glared at Ukita when she heard that question and raised her voice.
それでも母親かですって。あなたに何がわかるのよ。私は息子を愛してる。世界中の誰よりかけがえのない存在だわ。でもあの子がこれからの人生を平穏に生きていくためには、読名詞もラボも私の研究も全て必要なことなのよ。だから私は。
Sir bit her lip resentfully when she said that, almost as if she were trying to convince herself it was true. They'd be using Natsuhiko as a sort of hostage against her. There you go. If that were true, then Ukita's plan would most likely end up saving Dr. Tenkawa as well. No, that's what Ukita hoped for.
すみません。妙な質問を繰り返して。礼を言い遅れましたが、かばってくださったことは感謝してます。考え方は違っても、やはりあなたは立派な人だ。
浮田さん。
僕はね、天川博士。もし叶うならば、あなたとまた一緒に仕事がしたかったですよ。
Respectful. Those words, Ukita left. You could tell Dr. Tenkawa was still looking at him, but he ignored her. Possible, huh? But in the end, it's just a dream that will never come true. Ukita had learned the truth about Labo. Gone too far to turn back now, Professor. Unexpected change happened on his way home that day. Ukita noticed suspicious-looking cars following his. Have those cars been tailing me this whole time? He kept on sticking to his tail even after he'd slowed down. Maybe from that security sector 6 thing the professor spoke of. Ukita's phone suddenly rang at that thought. Ukita felt his heart leap out of his chest at the abrupt sound of a ringtone. He frantically shifted his car into ADS mode and picked up his PDA.
もしもし。
The voice that came out of the other line was the man from Q's. Oh, so they're just acknowledging it that it's Juro Sonozaki.
なぜあなたがそれを。
保安課の中に協力者がいるんだよ。それで連中の動向は多少わかるんだ。それより車に逃走機が仕掛けられているかもしれないから返事には注意してくれ。普通の
ああ。
さて要件を手短に話そう。この大事な時期に計画の中核である君に監視がついたのは非常にまずい。
I was just gonna explain why his car accident occurred.
だが向こうも君が白か黒かまだ判断しかねている。そこで監視の目を外すために君に我々のテロの被害者になっていただきたい。
え？
我々は明日から計画の成功率を上げるため6名市内の各所で陽動作戦を開始する。君はそのうちの一つに巻き込まれた善意の一般人を装うんだ。多少の危険は伴うが了解していただけるかな。
それは了解だ。まあなんとかしよう。
Didn't change the fact that he was in a dangerous situation either way.
では詳細は PDA に送っておく。自宅にも盗聴器やカメラが設置されている可能性があるので外で確認するよ。
Man hung up with those words. Ukita checked the rearview mirror to find his pursuers apparently still on his tail. This hardship to show up now of all times. Ukita gripped the handle tightly and glared into the rearview mirror. A few days later, the plan to pass off Ukita as the victim was put into action. His car had its ADS and brakes sabotaged and was crashed on purpose. Ukita had figured that his problems with the people watching him would be solved when it was passed off as an act by Q, but... I thought they'd go this far. He hadn't expected in the slightest that he'd get stuck in the car with its whole frame bent out of shape. To make matters worse, that wasn't all. Shivers ran up Ukita's spine when he caught a whiff of an unpleasant odor coming from outside. The smell is gasoline. Oh no. Burned to death in what was supposed to have been a diversionary tactic, it would be one of the most ridiculous screw-ups in history. But his body was so hurt that he couldn't even twitch the way he wanted. There was no escape. This isn't good. If I don't get out of here, then I'll die for real. At that moment... Uh-oh. The voice that echoed in his brain was familiar to him. Ukita was later safely extracted from the car by the rescue team that had rushed to the scene. Ukita was at a loss for words when he learned that Natsuhiko was the one responsible for that telepathy. Don't tell me that Natsuhiko's BC abilities manifested because of me. Whoops. Horrified at the thought, Ukita spoke to Natsuhiko.
いいか、よく聞いてくれ。大事な話だ。これから君の周りでおかしなことが起こるかもしれない。杞憂ならいい。いや、きっと杞憂になるはずだ。
So he knew more than just a hint that there was terrorism going on. He obviously knew about the terrorism that was planned. He also knew that Lebo had an interest in him. This is the true reason why he's warning him. The warning for Natsuhiko and an admonition for himself. His plan failed, and not only would Lebo and Rokume City's wrongdoings remain in darkness, but Natsuhiko would also likely be incarcerated. He must do whatever it takes to make that plan succeed. Ukita swore that. Q's diversionary tactics continued over the next few days. Thanks to that, all surveillance on Ukita had finally dropped. However, his heart ached when he heard that the diversionary tactics involved causing severe property damage, such as arsons in the bombing of the PRC. They're in on it too. It's all really necessary for the success of the plan. It's interesting that he's questioning Q when the PRC is just a front for Labo, right? So, in Q's eyes, this is justified. Though he was conflicted, he knew that the die had already been cast. And again, I suppose in Watase's eyes, the bombing of the PRC would be justified. He's more in this for revenge on Rokume City. Ukita seems to legitimately only be in this for the test subjects. And on December 15th, one day before the plan was to be carried out, an unexpected accident occurred. Natsuhiko and his friends had predicted Q's terrorist plot.
さっき一人そのテロリストを捕まえました。
Ukita shuddered when he heard Natsuhiko say that. Never expected some of the people I'm trying to help would pose an obstacle to the plan. Ukita hid how shaken up he felt as he promised Natsuhiko and his friends that he'd ensure Leibo's security was beefed up, that left for the time being. Yeah. It's bad. It's very bad. If I don't stop them, the plan will... Ukita called Watase on his PDA as he drove his car.
隊長さんか。すまない。緊急事態だ。
He'd explained the circumstances to Watase, who then replied in a hard voice.
やむを得ないだろう。
Ah. This is the call. We've seen this call from Watase's perspective.
そこまではするな。脅しをかけ、縛り上げればいい。頼むよ、隊長さん。お互い気が進まない話だが、これも彼らのためなんだ。
Ukita then hung up. He waited for Watase's call in Leibo's parking lot. It didn't take long for his PDA to ring.
まさか怪我を負わせたりしてないだろうな。
心配するな。ちゃんとあんたの言う通りにしたよ。俺だって子供を傷つけたくなんかない。
そうか。
It seemed Watase truly was a man he could place his trust in. On the other hand, Q's people are just... It's just me. Is it like they were just looking for an excuse to blow up the PRC out of simple revenge? You are correct there. This is interesting. This is really interesting. Because it's, I know I said a lot about Ukita and Q together when we were seeing this from Watase's perspective. And I know I kind of waffled on that when we saw the pair of them genuinely seeming to have the goal of saving the test subjects. It is interesting how we're distancing Ukita from Q. Now we're getting Q painted as more direct terrorists, as they realistically are, even though they have a legitimate gripe with Rokume City. That I could buy that they were legitimately framed as a convenient way to cover up dissent, and that only spawned more terrorism. So Rokume City pulled a US government there. Good job. They look at communicators with hostility. They must do whatever it takes to protect the test subjects. It was with that thought that Ukita continued talking to Watase.
なあ、隊長さん。一つ頼みがあるのだが。改めて約束してくれないか。どんなことが起こっても人殺しはしないと。
ああ、約束しよう。俺の姉貴の命は六名士の思惑のために踏みにじられたんだ。だから俺は連中と同じ真似は絶対にしない。
そうか。ありがとう。
Ukita hung up, then stared at the gargantuan mammoth that was Labo. D-Day had finally come. The day of reckoning had finally arrived. November 16th, 5:30 a.m. Once Ukita confirmed that the hallway he was observing was unpopulated, he sprang into action. He opened the door to find that the security guard's on standby. Roll out cold in a deep sleep. This had all been due to the powerful sleeping agent Ukita had mixed into their coffee half an hour ago. It's like losing all those games of chess was worth it after all. Ukita allowed himself a small chuckle at that, then went to the engine room to bring the sprinkler system offline. Now that was here. Then at 6:19 a.m., Ukita returned to the surveillance room, then immediately checked the monitors to confirm no one was in Area 1's inner ring.
よし、それでは始めよう。
Ordered that to persuade himself, then turned on the PA to Area 1's inner ring. Next he took out his PDA and played the immediate detonation sound file. The ultrasonic waves then played over the PA. The explosions and shockwaves from Area 1's inner ring facility. Area 1's inner ring faintly reached the surveillance room. Next order of business is Area 2 and 3. Okay, no one's around the bombs. Now. He then detonated the bombs one after another, causing Labo's automatic PA to start broadcasting.
ただいま地下1階第2エリアで火災が発生しました。ただいま地下2階第3エリアで火災が発生しました。ただいま地下1階第5エリアで火災が発生しました。施設内のセキュリティを避難モードに移行。N エリアを除く全ゲートを開放します。職員の皆様は落ち着いて地上へ避難してください。
Perfect. The warning system is active. We should be sending a dispatch request to Sirius right about now. We have to evacuate the rest of the staff while they're on their way here. Ukita adopted a tone of desperation as he spoke into the facility's PA.
緊急放送です。ただいま施設内で原因不明の爆発が発生しました。現状判明している限り、施設内の十数箇所で同時に爆発が起き、それに伴い火災も発生しています。襟内研究員、柏木研究員、至急第2エリアに来てください。機密資料の持ち出しについて直ちに相談したいことがあります。
Pieces for the plan now all in place. He stopped broadcasting for the time being. And so Araguchi and Kashiwagi come up and like, hey there, random junior fellow. What is this about top secret data? By then, a great clamor of people desperately running for their lives had already begun, even right outside the surveillance room. Ukita opened the door and looked outside, then called to some nearby staffers.
君たち頼む。中で警備員たちが倒れているんだ。外に連れ出してやってくれ。わかった。でもあんたはどうするんだ？僕は残って避難誘導をする。君たちは先に逃げろ。
Ukita then ran over to the control room. There were still many researchers in there. Ukita had learned a while back that they were using the WX particle amplifier this morning to conduct some sort of experiment. He shouted at the group of people there still manning their posts.
君たち何をやってるんだ。早く逃げ。しかし増幅器が稼働中で。放置しておけばブレインセルが自動停止処理を行うだろう。万が一それがうまくいかなくても地上の遠隔制御室からも停止処理はできる。いいから早く逃げろ。死んだら元も子もない。
With that shout, the researchers all scrambled out of the room. Good, now's my chance. Now that he had cleared the room of people, Ukita walked up to Brain Cell's control panel. He checked the monitor to find that the WX particle amplifier was apparently maintaining a steady output of 500 millice. I forget what it is. I forget what the true abbreviation is. Left on its own, those levels would automatically decrease. Ukita swiftly operated the control panel and rose its output to maximum. Particle ratings then gradually began to rise. 1, 2, 4. Good, this should soon render the amplifier out of control. It truly was a device that required the utmost attention to operate. It easily went haywire when the output was intentionally set to maximum. Well, yeah. It's do or die from here on out. Ukita ran out of the control room, then returned to the surveillance room to find that the security guards were gone. What remained was a security card someone had dropped. Ukita picked it up and continued his acts of destruction as he made further broadcasts. Flare soon grew faint. Eventually, he could no longer spot anyone on the monitors. Ukita quickly picked up the receiver of the ringing extension phone.
はい、こちら監視ルーム。
あ、まだ残っていた者がいたのか。こちらは地上フロアの監視ルームだ。早速で悪いが君は誰だ。こちらで行った点呼では、まだ地下に残っている職員は入り口、柏木、浮田の3名となっているが。
了解。すぐにその2人を探し脱出する。
Ukita shouted that, then hung up the phone. You didn't answer his question. Haraguchi and Kashiwagi were the two researchers Ukita had summoned over the PA earlier. According to the listing he checked beforehand, both of them had the authority to enter Area Zero. It's likely that Watase and his co-workers had already arrived and caught them at this point. Once Ukita had determined that, he turned back to the PA's mic and spoke.
地上フロアで行った点呼により施設内の全職員の避難が確認できました。万が一職員以外の方が残っていたら直ちに第5、第6エリア方面から脱出してください。
He made that broadcast as a sign for Watase and his co-workers just to be safe. He wouldn't waste time waiting for them to arrive. Went on over to the control room and checked on the current status of the amplifier. Levels in Area N were at 2,315. The value was rising at a good pace. Braincell had begun efforts to perform an emergency shutdown of the amplifier, but it was too late. Monitors showed that the shutdown and dampening of the particles were scheduled to finish at 1816. About 11 hours left to go. Good, everything's gone perfectly up to this point. Went back to the surveillance room. Watase and his co-workers quickly showed up, carrying the unconscious high-ranked researchers with them.
じゃあ俺たちはゼロエリアに降り被験体を救出してくる。僕はここに留まり不測の事態が起きないかどうか見張っておこう。
Watase nodded, then proceeded to run out of the room with Dojima and Hiyama. But then they didn't come back when expected. The case N hadn't been declared yet either. Taking too long. What's keeping them? Thought I made it clear to them that they'd be in real danger once the particle levels exceeded 4,000 millisiville. Something scalar value. Not millisieville. It was never millisiville, it's millisieve. It was millisieve? Was the actual radiation measure, and then proved to not even be that. It was something scalar value. Oh, it was just that. Milliscalar value. Instead of millisievere. Milliscalar value. But his thoughts were immediately interrupted by the sudden, nigh-deafening ringing of a siren.
ただいまケース N が発生しました。緊急事態につきセキュリティを封鎖モードに移行。施設内の全ゲートを閉鎖ロックするとともに隔壁
Ukita then checked the time and surprised to find that Watase and his co-workers were 20 minutes behind schedule. Did they make it in time? Ukita detonated the rest of the bombs while thinking that he'd check Watase and his co-workers afterwards to see if they were okay. Some of the bombs failed to detonate, but he had expected a few duds. Ah, the other fire extinguishers. Right as Ukita administered the AD he had prepared beforehand, Watase and his co-workers returned.
遅かったじゃないか。3人ともなんともないか。
Okay, so he's safe from manipulation right now.
ああ、とりあえず大丈夫そうだな。本当か？
Watase replied to Ukita's concerned question with distaste.
大丈夫だと言っているだろう。それより大変だ浮田さん。ゼロエリアには被験体が1人しかいなかった。何？
Watase then proceeded to explain the situation. Subject Y2 was nowhere to be found. Ukita then realized that the two high-ranked researchers were missing. He asked about their fates, and was met with an unbelievable answer. Rescue workers killed them in Area Zero. Ukita started flaring up at Watase before he even knew what he was doing.
隊長さん、話が違うじゃないか。人的被害は出さないんじゃなかったのか。待て、落ち着け浮田さん。誰も傷つけないという話だったじゃないか。騙していたのか。もしそうだというなら、僕は君たちを。
Three of you must be more Q than on my side. Ukita instinctively tried to grab Watase, but at that moment, Struck in the back of the head.
ぜ
Could still make out Watase's voice as his consciousness faded.
すまない浮田さん俺たちはもう引き返すことができないんだ
Watase had said us. Didn't seem like he was including Ukita when he said that. I've been betrayed. This is still in the realm where he just could have said, they attacked us and we killed them in self-defense. That feels like, with everything else that's come together, that feels like a legitimate whole. That would have stemmed this disagreement. We tried not to hurt them. They attacked us. We killed them in self-defense. Unless you want it. Ukita lost consciousness as if he were drowning in a sea of his own dismay. He had no idea how long he'd been out for.
僕は一体そうだ僕は隊長さんに殴られて
When he came to his senses, he realized that the security card around his neck and the one he had in his pocket were both gone. Where'd they go? Ukita proceeded to check the surveillance monitors to get a grasp of the current situation. Most of the cameras had been damaged as a result of the explosion, so they weren't very helpful. Damn it, where the hell did they all go? Did they leave me behind? Can't be. They planned on making me their scapegoat from the very start. Ukita's heart still harbored the desire to trust Watase. The fact that Watase's team had killed 2 men and knocked him unconscious created a powerful sense of ambivalence in him.
いや今まずできることをしなければ
He had to erase all evidence that he had participated in this attack, and the chance he was caught. It was with that thought that he began deleting the security footage. But a short while later, he discovered some most stunning footage.
これは
Ukita frantically paused the video.
なんだこの映像はなんで彼らがここにいるんだ
Natsuhiko and his friends were right there in the security footage. The image was a bit fuzzy as a result of the explosions, but there was no doubt as to who those 3 were. Ukita felt his pulse skyrocket in shock. Can't be. Did they go directly to Lebo after last night? Meaning they got caught up in our terrorist attack. Ukita had set off the bombs a few hours ago in places where people weren't around. He'd been so busy that he hadn't even checked the monitors thoroughly enough to see who was on them. So for that reason, he hadn't noticed Natsuhiko and his friends. It's bad. This is bad. This is bad. They weren't able to get out of here, then it's all my fault. No question about it. Just as Ukita thought that, he heard voices from outside.
おいここにいるのかその声は隊長さんか何あなた俺を知ってるのか
Ah.
知ってるも何も
He opened the door to find none other than Watase standing there. It wasn't just him. Accompanying him were 2 rescue workers and 2 other women Ukita had never seen before.
私は椿山エナ。この施設に呼ばれてやってきた高校教師よ。
私ユーリラボの研究員の家族です。
Not a lie. Ukita looked at their presence with suspicious eyes. Something is not right here.
ヒコリン、この先の記憶を花の香りがした記憶で検索しよう。そして思い出して、ここから先何が起きたのかを、浮田さんがどういう気持ちでいたのかを。ヒコリンの思い次第でその記憶は正しい形に修復されていくはず。そうして浮田さんを元に戻してあげて。
おい隊長さん、一体ここで何があったんだ。3人も殺され、削岩機まで壊されて。君が何か知ってるんじゃないのか。言え、言うんだ。そんなこと俺に分かるわけないだろう。だったら君以外に誰が分かると言うんだね。
ちょっと待ちなさいよ浮田さん。それはどういう意味？
え？
どうして隊長さん以外には分からないなんて言えるの？逆にあなたこそ何か知っているみたいに見えるわ。
そうですね、そんな気がします。
違うんだユーリ君。そんなこと俺に分かるわけないだろう。 すまない。僕としたことが取り乱してしまって。確かあの大きなタンクが消火剤の詰まっているタンクだ。水や窒素ガスなども詰まっている。窒素ガス？何も覚えていないのかね。君が地下に降りてきた理由も救助すべき人の名も。
まあな。
本当かね。
おっさんはなんだその人。
ああ、まあ。
本当かね。
なあおっさん、あんたまだ俺が記憶喪失かどうか疑ってるんじゃないだろうな。
いや、そんなことは。
まあ疑う気持ちもわかるがな。しかし橘たちも俺が記憶喪失だと認めているんだ。もし俺の言動行動に不審なところがあったとしたら、橘か森部が気づくだろ。
まあ確かに。
俺のことは信じられなくても橘たちのことは信じてもいいんじゃないか。
うん、そうだな。
おっさん聞いてくれ。檜山の死体が見つかった。
それは本当かね。 何も覚えていないのかね。君が地下に降りてきた理由も救助すべき人の名も。
立花が言うには時間とともに記憶が戻ってくるらしいが、なかなかな。おっさん聞いてくれ。檜山の死体が見つかった。
それは本当かね。
好奇心は猫を殺す。ジュニアフェローの人間はこの言葉を覚えておいた方がいいわ。
やめたまえ、椿山さん。君は何をしているのかね。
それは見たこともない機械だったからつい。
いいからそのパソコンから離れるんだ。これは君の身のためを思って忠告しているのだよ。ここは国策に関わる研究をしているんだ。むやみに情報を探らない方がいい。そんなことをすると君の身が危険だ。
なんだ、そういうことだったの。何よ、ちょっとぐらいいいじゃない。
なんだ、今度は何事だ。
知らないわよ。私がこのパソコンをいじっていたら急に浮田さんが怒り出して。
浮田さん、どういうことかご説明願えますか。
そうだよ、別にパソコンぐらい触ったっていいじゃん。
いや、絶対にダメだ。ここは国策に関わる研究をしているんだ。むやみに情報を探らない方がいい。
何よそれ。この緊急時にそんなこと言ってる場合？生きるか死ぬかって瀬戸際に。
だが第5エリアから先は機密のレベルも極めて高い。ここから生きて出ることができたとしても、ここで見たことを外で公言しない方がいいだろう。思いもよらないトラブルに巻き込まれる可能性があるからね。
そうやって私たちを脅すつもりなのね。まったく怪しいったらないわ。
何？
だってそうでしょ。私館内放送で聞いたのよ。地上の点呼で施設内の全職員の避難が確認できたって。それなのにあなたどうして地下に残っているのよ。
それを言うなら怪しいのは君だって同じだろう。なぜ六名学園の教師がこんなところにいるのかね。
ストップ。二人ともそこまでだ。今は言い争ってる場合かよ。
分かったわ。
ヒコリン、もし不安ならもう一度修復を繰り返すこともできるんだよ。
好奇心は猫を殺す。ジュニアフェローの人間はこの言葉を覚えておいた方がいいわ。
ここは国策に関わる研究をしているんだ。むやみに情報を探らない方がいい。そんなことをすると君の身が危険だ。
なんだ。
え？ああ、まあ。
頼りなさそうだったけど意外にいいとこあるじゃない。
なんだね。
別に。ただ優しいなって思って。
優しい？
ほら、こういう状況の時ってやっぱり男の人に頼りたくなるじゃない。でも隊長さんってちょっと怖そうなところがあるから。私ね、ああいうガサツな男より真面目な人が好きなの。
今はそういう話をしている時かね。それに森部君もいるというのに。
あら、あの小娘ならどこかに行っちゃったわよ。
え？あ、
邪魔者がいなくなったところで、浮田さん、今後の話をしない？
今後の話って？
無事脱出するためにはチームワークが必要よね。でも私たち親密さが足りないと思うの。だからね、その親密さを もっと高めたいと思うのよ。
それは。
何やってんだあんたら。
知らないわよ。私がこのパソコンをいじっていたら急に浮田さんが怒り出して腕をつかまれてお説教されてたの。
浮田さん、どういうことかご説明願えますか？
機密情報に触れないように注意していたんだ。第5エリアから先は機密のレベルも極めて高い。ここから生きて出ることができたとしても、ここで見たことを外で公言しない方がいいだろう。思いもよらないトラブルに巻き込まれる可能性があるからね。
好奇心は猫を殺す。ジュニアフェローの人間はこの言葉を覚えておいた方がいいわ。好奇心は猫を殺す。ジュニアフェローの人間はこの言葉を覚えておいた方がいいわ。
おい、今度は何事だ。
第5エリアから先は機密のレベルも極めて高い。ここから生きて出ることができたとしても、ここで見たことを外で公言しない方がいいだろう。思いもよらないトラブルに巻き込まれる可能性があるからね。